side-by-sides in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down. Offer valid 9/30/2023. Subject to change without notice. Offer on approved purchases. Select new unregistered outside deals. Final year exclusions apply. Cannot be combined with most retail financing.
Action Plumbing, Heating, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continue to build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Hey, moms and dads, bring the whole crew to a Salt Dogs baseball game and unleash the fun. Visit Market Park all summer for fireworks Fridays, souvenir Saturdays, Sunday family fun days, and more. With 50 home games, even weekdays can be unfun. Planning an event? Make it a home run with group discounts. When you need an outing the whole family will enjoy, unleash the fun with the Salt Dogs. Call 402-474-2255 or visit saltdogs.com for tickets.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. The home of Kansas City Royals baseball. KNKFM for 93.7 The Ticket. Jay Foreman postgame show. Sponsored by Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Recap, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the post game. We are not Jay Foreman. We got Austin and Harrison taking over here. Maybe go for half an hour to an hour here, and just kind of feel out what the crowd has to say after an upsetting loss, to say the least. Close game. I think you don't want to be too down on the game. We did play it close, despite losing the turnover margin as bad as it was. You only lost by a field goal. So there are some highlights, some silver linings. But again, I think it's fair to say that another disappointing loss for the Huskers. And if you want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 951. But Austin, I haven't had a chance to talk to you. Just kind of overall thoughts from the game.
You sounded like Matt Rule right there, right? Trying to spin it positively. I respect it. I get that. That's certainly one way to take it. The most interesting part to me is how I think everyone at this station predicted Nebraska would lose this game. Mm-hmm. It's what happened. We're right on track with our predictions. I don't think any of us were, being downers or being haters. I think we were in wait and see mode. I think it was a fair choice to pick Minnesota to win this game. They're favored by, a touchdown coming in. And Nebraska led by a touchdown deep into the third quarter. Mm-hmm. But they still lost the game. To some degree, we're right. We should feel good about, hey, we're right. Look at us. You should listen to us because you know what we're talking about. But the fan, I think that all of us understands that this hurts the exact same.
Yeah.
And we're used to it. We've seen it. We've heard it. We've felt it. We're just, I don't even want to say back to square one. We're just right at square one. We haven't moved off of square one. It didn't feel like a step backwards, but it definitely wasn't a step forward.
Yeah. I mean, you said yourself, right? It feels like square one. You go back 3 years in a row, we've played Minnesota. It's been a 7-score game within one score the last 3 times we played. This isn't gaining ground. This isn't losing ground. We're back to square one, and we can't figure out that secret recipe. And again, today it feels like square one. It's turnovers, it's penalties, it's at certain moments when you felt like the run game was going strong, you have an unfortunate fumble by Anthony Grant. Maybe you plug in Gabe Ervin there instead of trusting Anthony Grant. There's just a lot of problems coming up that we've just faced many times before. And I think the biggest problem for me was the turnovers. You're just not going to win games. Mm-hmm. Even Matt Rule all season, before, through the camps, through all the practices, he's been preaching, we're not going to win a lot of games if we don't win the turnover margin. And you start game one losing the turnover margin by 3. We have 4 turnovers to their 1. And again, some of those you can kind of write as unfortunate, but I mean, a lot of, you had a few bad passes by Jeff Sims, just not reading the safety on that one. And again, unfortunate fumble by Anthony Grant, things you heard that could be a problem. And then late down the game, they put him in there anyways, trusting him. I maybe would have gone with Gabe Ervin because he was running the ball well. But again, that's kind of hindsight's 2020. I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at. I want to focus a little bit on the offense this segment. what is kind of your reaction to the running backs, and in particular with Anthony Grant on that fumble? Would you even have him out there at that point in the game?
So, yeah, starting with that one, I get what Matt Rule is saying. He said it in his post-game, press conference. They trust their guys to make their plays, and okay, I get that. I respect that. He said what you said. Hindsight's 2020. You got to move on to the next one. There's a reason Anthony Grant was RB3 on the depth chart. It was fumbles. That's what Matt Rule told us to our faces. And I don't think anything that he did in those first, couple quarters were enough to say he should be the guy in that situation.
Yeah.
Not that Gabe Ervin was fantastic. I mean, for the game, he ends up with only 7 carries for 55 yards, 27 of them on one, but 6 carries for 28 yards. You're sitting at, 4.6 yards a carry. That's fine. That'll get the job done, even if you factor out that 27-yard carry. He seemed like the guy. Ramir Johnson, only 1 carry for -1 yard, but he was in there on passing downs.
Yep.
Seemed like
had a good kickoff return as well.
He did. Didn't fumble, in preseason. That's a guy Matt Rule said he loved. He respects what Ramir Johnson does. So, again, not being on the sideline, not knowing the flow of the game, I don't fully understand the rationale to put Anthony Grant in there. But that's, again, an unforced error. And I'm not going to say it's unfortunate. I'm not even going to give Minnesota, huge props for that play. The guy, ran past him, came back, punched down on top of the ball. If you're Anthony Grant and the reason you're RB3 is because of your fumbles, both hands are on that football. I don't care if it's on top. I don't care if it's underneath. Both arms on the football. If you have any awareness of why you are on the depth chart, but again, you lost that sense of moment. You lost sight of why it was you were in there in that position. You went back to the same old. Instead of taking special care with 4 minutes and change to go, it's baffling. The other part about it, too, is you go back to early in the fourth quarter. Nebraska has the ball. They just get it close to midfield. They take a shot on first down with Tommy Hill at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, questionable call. You move on. Second down, pass, still goes nowhere. Third down pass. You give the ball back to Minnesota in 46 seconds.
Yep.
That's not going to cut it. If you drain a minute or two off the clock there, so even if you go 3 and out, but you run the ball, that's 2 minutes off the clock. If you trust your running backs to just chew up 2 minutes with the lead where it was, okay, that's 2 minutes Minnesota doesn't have at the end of the game. It's the little things that come back to bite you in the end when they all add up.
Yeah, and you said it before. It's that time possession. You can't go 3 and out when the game's getting tight like that. Excuse me, you're going against a team like Minnesota. That first half alone, you're looking at I think it was 13 possessions, 15 maybe at the most. There were about 30 already, 32 possessions, I think, heading into the half. So right there, right off the bat, time of possession, it hasn't been in your favor. Minutes wise, it actually got pretty close. I think it was like 32-29 at the actual end of the game.
30 and a half to like 29.
30 and a half,
yeah.
20. So it actually got pretty close. But again, when you're getting down to the stretch like that, that's 3 and out with 3 quick passes. And again, that's the thing about this wide receiver core in Nebraska. It does worry me. That's going to be a problem for us, I think, down the road. I'm really impressed by guys like Bullock, Marcus Washington's a guy that I don't know if he's fully healthy. I know he's kind of prepped up. I want to see him get into full game speed. We could see a high uptick on him. But again, you're looking at that receiver core as probably one of your weaker parts of the offense. And now you're looking at Jeff Sims as a little turnover prone. And you don't want to label it all on him because you look at those wide receivers, not a lot of separation. Some really tight windows to throw into, but he definitely deserves a few. I mean, that one obvious one, safety, didn't read it. He snuck up right up on that interception.
I'm going to put all 3 of them on Jeff Sims. I hear what you're saying about the wide receivers, and I completely agree. Okay, I'm going to go through the receivers first, then I'll touch on Jeff Sims. That's going to take me a little longer. Bullock had the best separation of it, and I don't really think we can give him that much credit for it.
Especially on that Osborne play. He was sitting there for about 20 seconds.
Right. Minnesota just left him alone. Okay, good job. You snuck behind the defense.
Yeah,
Great.
a sneak play.
Yeah, Marcus doesn't strike me as explosive. I think he's more of a, possession type receiver without a whole lot of that burst. We haven't seen it in now a year in a game. Ramir Johnson out of the backfield, whatever. Nate Borkacher was targeted, once? Caught it with one hand for 4 yards. Okay, that's fine, but doesn't jump off the page at you. And what does it say about where Thomas Fidone is that you throw the ball to Heinrich Harburg before you throw the ball to him? I don't think that's a great sign for where Nebraska's pass catchers in general are at. Okay, so Jeff Sims. Let's go through these interception by interception.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first one, he threw late all the way across the field, trying to fit it into bracket coverage, right? The guy that was covering, I think it was Billy Kemp out there. Yeah, it was Kemp. Cut in front of him, right? He jumped it a little bit. There's a safety coming down from over top. You have to touch that in perfectly to give your guy a chance. You didn't do it because the throw was late. You didn't step into it, whatever, throw it away, right? Either dive forward, take the sack, or throw the ball away. The second one at the end of the first half, maybe Nebraska was in, maybe they weren't. I get why the call on the field stood with not giving Gabe Irvin that touchdown. So you're on the 6-yard line. Again, you have to get points. If you're a veteran quarterback and you've started as many games as Jeff Sims has, you've got to know their end zone covers. There's going to be someone lurking back there. That throw didn't have a chance to get to the back line.
No,
it didn't. And the guy was breaking across the receiver in the back of the end zone. You can't throw that ball. And then I heard Jay talking about it, and I'm glad he saw the same thing I did. Jeff Sims locked onto his first read in Marcus Washington in the middle of the field with a guy right on his hip pocket and the safety coming down. There was nothing special about really any of those interceptions for Minnesota. What Omar Brown did, breaking on that out route, not a good throw by Callie Commandus, but that was at least an athletic play.
Yeah, he had to cut that route, get underneath it, make the play.
Right. Minnesota didn't have to do any of that. Those were absolutely gift wrapped on top of the fumble from Anthony Grant, where he wasn't thinking about what his problem all camp was.
Absolutely. And, while you're talking about this, we do got some clips cut up. I do want to hear, this is Rule's evaluation of Sims' game. It's a little long-winded. He kind of bounces around, but nonetheless, quick summary on what he thought of Sims today.
Obviously as a quarterback, you can't have those turnovers, right? Even right before the half, kind of an odd sequence, right? Either it's a touchdown or it's a false start, kind of weird how that happened, right? But I thought he had some really good moments. He had some key throws on some 2-minute drive movements down the field. Obviously he ran for over 100 yards. He was a dynamic threat in the zone read game. But you have to protect the football, right? And so back foot throws and all those things, that's not what we need. We don't need that. I was prepared to go to overtime. I thought Sat did a really nice job, called some runs, got a couple first downs, turned it into the last drive. So we're going to go down there, take a shot at a long field goal or go out. But this is the first step for Jeff, and we'll coach him, and he'll come back. I thought the fumble, with 2 minutes left, like we're gonna go try to run the clock out. We're running the ball for 6 yards. Unfortunate that that happened. So
yeah, and there you have it. It's common sense, right? You can't turn the ball over that much and expect to win. My biggest question for Jeff Sims, not Jeff Sims, but just kind of, for you, Austin, is what is your belief, in Jeff Sims? Because he still has some talent. He's going to be that running, dual threat regardless. And he might not be that super high consistent passer, that pocket passer that you might want to see, but he still has a ton of talent. He's still just an athletic, force regardless of his passing consistency. How does he bounce back? And, where are you at on Jeff Sims? It's a rough first game for him, but do you kind of expect this pattern to continue, or do you expect to see a better Jeff Sims going forward?
It's more of the same. I think my brother said it best. Adrian Martinez in a different jersey to some degree,
I'm
right?
glad you said that. That's exactly what I'm feeling. I'm also worried on, and I'll let you finish, but go ahead.
I say that there are moments of goodness, I don't want to say greatness, right? There are moments that look like he's a legit quarterback. The pass Ramir Johnson to convert that third down. Ramir pops out of the backfield. He finds a soft spot in the zone. Jeff Sims hits him right in the numbers. He falls down, first down. Marcus Washington for, 13, 17 yards. Yeah, the 17-yard up the seam, put it where only Marcus Washington could get it. Low and away, didn't get him hit. That was fine. Even the one to Borgature, he had to reel it in with one hand, but the defense couldn't get there. He let his guy go make a play. Maybe a better pass. Borgature can haul it in, turn up field, but tight enough coverage. I'll give him credit for a nice enough throw there. But it worries me that in game one, Nebraska had to rely so much on Jeff Sims' legs. 19 carries, and like Matt Rule said, some of them sacks, but they really relied on the quarterback run game. And that's the one thing that they talked about was, okay, yeah, we're going to run the ball at the quarterback. Jeff Sims can do that. That hasn't proven consistently successful. Over the long period of time, I think it adds to Jeff Sims wearing down, maybe not making those great decisions because there's been so much else on his plate. And I don't want to make excuses for the guy.
Right.
He's played enough college football. He should know better. But I also think some of it's on the coaches that they have to understand who their quarterback is, not who they want him to be.
Yeah, you don't want to put it all on the quarterback, right? You need him to just get a playmaker. And again, I'm curious to see this offensive line continue to develop. I was actually kind of, I was a little impressed by the offensive line today. They were still getting some kind of pressure back there. Jeff Sims was getting rushed. But for the most part, in that second half in particular, I was pretty impressed by the willingness to kind of lean into the run. A little surprised they didn't lean on it some more. We talked about it before. They had that drive, 3 quick passes and you're out. Didn't quite understand that, but it was starting to open up. And Minnesota, that's a good defense. That's, through the Big Ten in the past few years, they're up there in defense. It is hard to score points on that team. A, it's a solid defense. B, likely not to get the ball back anytime soon as you punt that thing off. So again, I think for Sims, the biggest thing for him is, I don't want to say a bell cow. I don't care if it's a committee of running backs. But again, we have to develop that running game. I don't want another year of Sims where, we had that happen with Adrian where you're just relying on your guy to run the ball so much. That is putting a ton of pressure on him, and pretty soon he is the entire focus of that defense. And when you got a quarterback that's basically calling all the shots because you're not confident to running with your backs, you're not confident to throw to your receivers, and it's just all relying on him, defense picks up on that quick. It's pretty easy to see, where's the offense going? All eyes on the quarterback. He's pretty much deciding it all for him. I just don't want to see a repeat of that happen. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, very similar. I like what you said about the offensive line. They were fine. I don't think they were the problem tonight. No, right? You want to keep your quarterback clean in the backfield. The one that really sticks out to me was a sack that Turner Corcoran allowed. It's going to go against him. Instead of forcing the defensive lineman out, Turner kind of squared up to him. So as Jeff Sims stepped up into the pocket, the spin move from the defensive end, Jeff Sims just stepped right up in. I don't know if that's pocket presence, if that's on Turner Corcoran for being square instead of trying to angle his guy out. I don't think the offensive line was the problem. Kent on the text line, thanks for your interaction, but we're going to agree to disagree here. Sims is not close to Martinez. Well, why are the results so similar? They're being used the same way. We saw a lot of the same stuff there, right? I'm not saying Jeff Sims and Adrian Martinez are the same person.
They're being used as the same
very
way.
Similarly, and the results are the same. Kent also said Scott Frost, Casey Thompson, and Bill Bush win this game. We're going to talk about the defense next segment because I don't think the defense was the problem. You and I are both on record as saying we think Casey Thompson is the better quarterback than Jeff Sims. But to throw that first guy in there, really, really, that's the route you choose to go, Ken. Really.
Yeah, not quite feeling that one. And again, I do not want to hit the panic button. I'm nowhere near the panic button. It's game one, right? It's Matt Rule. You got to understand that going into this game, you're looking at a Minnesota and a PJ Fleck for past 2 years, 9-4, 7 year into the program. He's got development, he's got size, and they got an identity. The one thing Nebraska's been looking for and lacking forever is that true identity. And I think, if I had to peg something that really scares me the most is today, I don't know if we really found that identity.
Well, the identity was quarterback run game today,
which is exactly what we thought we were going away from, right? Yep. You thought we were going to see a lot of the fullback, a lot of the big, just build up trenches, that big, heavy run game. And again, you don't want to lean entirely into that, but at the same time, you're not seeing necessarily the great passing game either. You're not seeing the great running game. For me, it's really going to matter to me to see what does Minnesota look like going down the road and what does Nebraska look like going down the road? Because I might just be way too harsh on Nebraska right now. We may get down to the season and be thinking now the interceptions, he deserves that discredit, right? That is unacceptable. But in terms of the defense itself, we're going to continue to see what this defense is for Minnesota. And if that is a legit defense, and if Nebraska's offense, although you want to score more than 10 points, we'll see how bad that truly looks in the future here. But again, I just think it's this first game. You don't want to hit any overreactions. The big ones to look at is Jeff Sims' turnover problem. Anthony Grant, does he get that under control? But nonetheless, you still got a guy in Ramir Johnson and Gabe Irvin that did a good job today, right? I got zero complaints with either of those guys. For me, it's on the offensive side. What can Jeff Sims be consistently? I don't want one game from him. I don't want 2 games. I want to see it consistently. And then what can our offensive line continue to build up to? Can we really rely on that run game, get away from that offensive, that quarterback run all the time, which, we talked about before. You run into that. We still don't really know who our QB2 is and how comfortable we are. So you don't want to go down that route.
Your QB 2A, 2B, because again, like you said, we don't know, was in at tight end more than he was in at quarterback. And I would, try to start putting a bow on the end of this segment with Minnesota deserves the benefit of the doubt for what they're going to be. They didn't look good today.
No,
Minnesota hasn't looked good in August or September consistently for a while, right? That's something we talked about all week long on the station. Minnesota has, had its issues in games like this before, but they found a way to win. Nebraska didn't. Most of the time they find a way to win these games. Nebraska hasn't. So that's a program up there in the Twin Cities that deserves the benefit of the doubt. That's a team that, until they prove they're not going to go to a bowl game, will find a way to go to a bowl game. And all Nebraska's proven is what it proved again tonight.
Absolutely. Before we kind of wrap this segment up, is there any silver linings on this offense that you're looking at? For me, I'll be honest, it's still Gabe Ervin. I was really impressed by him today. That gives me a lot of hope that this is what he looks like when he's healthy. He's the guy. If you have a ton of confidence in him running the ball, again, I think if our offensive line can really start clicking, and so much of that is just going to be chemistry, and that's why I'm really hoping this thing take off. You look at across the board between Piper, Corker, and Scott. All juniors pretty much hitting there. So you're getting a veteran offensive line. I want that to start clicking, and if you can get a guy like Gabe Ervin to be your real bell cow, maybe slide Ramir Johnson, and if you can Anthony Grant the fumbling problem under control, you could have a little bit of committee. But I'm feeling confident about the running game. Jeff Sims, obviously the big question, but as far as confidence in the offense, what were some of the highlights that gives you confidence going forward?
Yeah, the run game was solid. You average 4.9 yards per carry. You'd like to be, 5.5 if you're going to be an elite rushing offense, but 5's a step in the right direction, especially against a defense like Minnesota. It does worry me that so much of it came from the quarterback. But again, Gabe Ervin was at 4.6 if you take out that one long run, closer to 8 since you include it. So, yeah, he looked fine. I don't know if he didn't look like a superstar, but he looked fine. Right. The offensive line wasn't overwhelming, wasn't underwhelming. Borgacher, I think, can be a starting tight end. He's not going to wow you necessarily. And even Jalen Lloyd getting a touch, right? Yeah. I know it was only one, but they found a way to get him on the field in the first game. That tells me that red shirt's probably gone if they're willing to use him in a conference game. So a lot more questions than answers, a lot more gray cloud than silver lining. Maybe I'll have more tomorrow on the show, but for now, yeah, running game is fine, adequate.
Yeah, it seems to be a pattern with Nebraska football openers. We typically end this game one with more questions than we begin with. And again, if you guys want to join the show, we're going to go into our break here. But Sartor Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. And unfortunately, no Allo, as we're trying to get that figured out right now. We do have some problems. So again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and hopefully we can get Allo channel 951 running back up for you here shortly. But again, this is the Husker football postgame show. And again, it's me and Austin sitting back here in studio. We will catch you guys on the other side of the break.
Too many people believe that chronic pain, allergies, or illness are permanent and something you're stuck with. Nutrition Illness has been proving that narrative wrong for 29 years and changing lives for the better in the process. Their team is trained in the newest, most advanced pain-relieving techniques and ways to deal with toxins, allergies, pollution, and emotion that make you ill. Call today for a free consultation at 531-254-5690 or to novotnynutritionandwellness.com. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness, located at 7th and Superior.
Your John Deere dealers offering hot financing on all new compact tractors. For a limited time, get 0% interest for 84 months when you buy any new John Deere compact tractor. And with a variety of attachments, you'll make quick work of chores your acreage. From mowing to grading and moving large loads, Acres has a John Deere tractor to handle your toughest project. Don't delay. Visit your local Acres store to take advantage of this great offer. Acres, solutions for every field. Offer expires September 30th, 2023. To approved credit with John Deere Financial.
This is Bud Seinhorst, President and CEO of LIBA, the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket for the LIBA Business Hour, as we discuss local business and highlight those who are thriving in the Lincoln area. It's the LIBA Business Hour, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93 Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Summer is winding down, but there's no reason to put your golf clubs away. Double Eagle Golf makes golf leagues and events possible year-round. Sign up today for 9-hole leagues this fall, any day from Monday to Friday, starting up September 25th. Check out their deals on monthly memberships and schedule your Husker watch parties, birthday bachelor parties, corporate team outings, or just a good old Saturday with the boys. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street. Call today at 402-742-0140. Working at Continental in Lincoln is a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at 20, which grows to $28.87 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Ready to upgrade your combine with new technology to make your harvest more efficient, meaning more money in your pocket? The team at Landmark Implement is here to help find the right combine for harvest. Plus, when you purchase a pre-owned combine from Landmark, you are backed by Landmark's extensive service network, along with mobile techs and parts drop-off points to keep you up and running, reducing downtime. View inventory online at landmarkimp.com or stop by your local Landmark to experience the Landmark difference.
If your car has sent you to the sidelines, Eustace Body Shop can help. World-class certified technicians, OEM parts, and free loaner cars, Eustace Body Shop is your best choice this Husker season. And with 6 locations across central and eastern Nebraska, we've got you covered, whether you're rooting at home or you're headed to Memorial Stadium. Get a free online quote at EustaceBodyShop.com and let's get you back in the game.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
August of summer are here. Is your yard in need of a touch-up as we head into the fall season? August, September, and October are the months for aeration, and Penner Sprinkler and Lawn is the place to call to get the job done right. If you're noticing any issues with your sprinkler system through the hot summer months, they're always a call away, and they're already scheduling installs for sprinkler systems for next year and all other lawn care. Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn today at 402-413-1215.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Beef, yours cheese spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Join us at this year's Ignite Lincoln 50 Rococo Theater on Thursday, September 14th for an inspiring night of stories that spark change. Get your tickets at ignitelincoln.com. Don't miss this chance to be a part of something extraordinary.
Jay Foreman postgame show, sponsored by Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Creek, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the Husker football postgame show. And again, it's just Harrison and Austin wrapping things up. And it is actually September 1st, starting off the new month today. So again, if you want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and no Allo. Hopefully after the show here, we'll get that tuned up for you guys. And again, that thing goes all the way up through the middle of the night. So if you want to watch Ticket at 3 a.m., it'll be there for you. And again, we'll get that working for you after this show. But nonetheless, kind of want to switch up and focus on the defense here. I think the defense is a pretty obvious thing to say. You know, you held Minnesota 13 points. I think most people would consider that a win. I was just overall impressed. It's kind of cliche to say this about a defense, but the bend don't break. They executed that well, though. You know, it sounds cliche, but when they got to the red zone, obviously you had some pretty big interceptions there to kind of switch the game's momentum. At the end, it didn't quite work out for you. But nonetheless, they gave the offense multiple opportunities to kind of get ahead, and they did get ahead. You know, awesome third quarter, finally get ahead there. Defense gets another stop, but you just can't move the chains, and you're stuck there. But overall, the defense, kind of your initial thoughts, where are you sitting with them in this new 3-3-5?
Solid, right? I'm not going to say elite, right? They have to start a little bit faster, I think. I mean, on the first drive, give up a scramble on a 3rd and 8. They have a chance to start the season with, I think it would have been a 3 and out there. You're not able to do that. And it's, again, more of the same. I think as we got into that second and third quarter, we saw more creativity from Tony White. We saw him, fake guys up to the line of scrimmage, drop them back. We saw guys blitz from different angles. And that's the creativity that, has to be there for Nebraska, especially against young quarterbacks, right? Keep them guessing. Early on, Cali McManus looked very comfortable. Like he was in full control. Minnesota went away from some of that. Maybe it's because Nebraska took it away. Maybe it was they got cute on their side and they feel lucky to escape to some degree. I'm going to give Tony White credit,
Mhm.
at least for now. I think he did a pretty good job in those, middle quarters of making Cali McManus a little more uncomfortable. You get sacks from Hutmacher and Gunnarsson in the fourth quarter. The Ty Robinson one, I get why he was ejected by the rule. It's the right call.
Yeah, it's
but
100%
that's
the right call.
Yeah, that's a tough one though. It didn't seem like he hit him very hard. The roughing the passer, yeah, I don't quite get it. The face mask on Cam Lenhart, he was being held, but again, just don't grab, right? You can stick your arm out, but you have to know where your arm is at head high. The total numbers are fine, right? Like 24 of 44 for Cali McManus isn't great.
Yeah,
not a lot of big
to
completions.
rushing. We kept him under 100, right?
It was 25 carries for 55 yards,
Wow.
which was fantastic. Sean Tyler, their transfer running back, 10 for 41. Their backups had 6 for 14, 1 for 3. They snuffed out the reverse really well. Cali McManus, outside of that 9-yard scramble on 3rd and 8, had 5 carries for -4 yards. With sacks factored in there. So the rush defense was pretty solid. I don't think it's the best running game Nebraska will see, but against a team that has been known for it, I think they did a good job. And my overall takeaway with the defense is the offense needed to be better to not put the defense in the spots it ended up in the fourth quarter. After Nebraska scored both times, the defense got a 3 and out, right? If you want to win 3 possessions in a row, you had 2 out of 3. The offense just had to find a way to come through, put some points on the board. Like, I don't care if it's a field position game, like people were talking about. Like, okay, that can be true to an extent, but put points on the board. Right? You get that touchdown, you get the 3 and out, put a field goal on the board. Get the 10 points there. You get the field goal, you get the stop. Man, just get 3 more points. 3 more points, make it a 2-possession game. Absolutely. And that goes so far. And again, kind of to my point too, at the end of the game, the offense put the defense in a terrible position, right? With the fumble, the interception at the very end of the game, Minnesota takes over on its own 49-yard line, right? So you're right at midfield. It shouldn't be up to the defense to bail the offense out all the time. But at the same time, when you're called on to do your job, right? You give up 22 yards on that last drive. That's more than you could afford to give up. And you had a chance to not do that, right? Their first pass, they find the tight end over the middle of the field. 2nd and 1, convert another one. Pretty much everything to the sidelines when that's where they want to go. They're down to 1 timeout. They want to get to the sideline to stop the clock to save time. It was just so easy for Minnesota to get those 22 yards, even with a false start, right? You get a sack, then you get a false start. You're like, okay, 1 more negative play, an incompletion even, and it's a 50-yard field goal, a 52-yard field goal or so, instead of a 46-47 to win the game. I'll give Minnesota credit for a good play call, from the booth, reading what Nebraska was doing, picking the right run play at the right time, still being able to have that timeout in their back pocket to be able to do it. That's good coaching. That's good football strategy. But again, why? You're 1 play away. 1 play away in a position you shouldn't have even been in. Despite all the issues, you're 1 play away from giving yourself a chance, and you just fall that 1 play short again.
Yeah, and when you think about the defense again, I don't want to bag on them because overall I think it was a great game. But like you said, at the end of the game, at some point in time, you got to put your you got to draw a line in the sand. And it's as a Nebraska fan, I feel like we see this happen for multiple opponents we played for the past few years where the game gets close, they draw their line in the sand and they come back, someone makes a huge play. Nebraska just needs a guy to make that huge play. And it's kind of, Sipple says this quite a bit. You almost need that superstar. You need that guy, that 5-star, the Randy Gregory that we used once to have to make the big play and say, this right here is where we're going to get the stop. And we just didn't quite have that down the stretch. Predictable plays, like you said, it's it's going to go to the edge. They're going to try to stop the clock. They're going to, at worst case scenario, they're throwing it to the middle, but that is not the priority. And again, it was way too easy for him. I was a little surprised there with Tony White's defense. I think that's what surprised me most because in the first half, I was a little more lenient on the defense. You were expecting a heavy run Minnesota, and they kind of turned the table on you. They actually threw it over 50% of the time, flipped the script. So, yeah, you probably weren't showing a ton of fakes because why would you? You're expecting them to run the ball, and they totally throw you off. Second half, you make those adjustments. You start getting pressure on the quarterback, realizing they're kind of trying to throw us off our game, our scouting report.
Mhm.
And then you get to that last possession, and it all seems obvious. You just can't quite do it. And again, it's unfortunate for the defense to be in that position to begin with. Obviously, you would have loved to have Ty Robinson in there. The ejection, it was the right call. For him, it's a simple play. Worst case scenario, you put your hands on him. The dipping the shoulder, you just got to know better than that. It was pretty clear from his point of sight that the ball was gone, or at least it was in the process of being thrown. That's just one he's got to learn from, and that's just football today. You see so much like helmet-to-helmet contact that it just kind of seems like a joke. He was ejected from that, and they do need to fix that rule. Where do you sit on that? Real quick tangent here, but they got to get rid of that, right? I hate seeing players get ejected for, how do I say this? Unintentional targeting.
Right. And that's the tricky part of the rule, is that they took judging intent out of it. Right. We think it's so easy to judge intent. And there are cases where it seems very obvious from the outside that, he was headhunting at every opportunity to hit him somewhere else, but he didn't. Right. The natural reaction of both players is to duck down a little bit. Right. Ty Robinson was starting to put his head down. Callie McManus had just thrown it. He was starting to look down. Right. And that's where the face mask hit the face mask. If you're Ty Robinson, you have to be smarter, right? They're going to protect quarterbacks, do everything you can. But at the same time, I don't think there was any, bad intention there. I think, 10 years ago, that's perfectly clean, even though there is helmet-to-helmet contact, right? It's not like Ty Robinson was doing, a safety to a wide receiver over the middle, top of the helmet to the side of the helmet. That's where concussions happen. Face mask to face mask. Ty Robinson, that's a lot of mass. That's a lot of human going at a smaller person, but he wasn't full speed. He wasn't launching, right? He was running at the quarterback with his hands up. Face mask happened to hit face mask. That's not how problems happen.
Yeah.
So that to me, again, I would like to think I'd say the same thing if that was Minnesota doing that to Jeff Sims, right? Yeah, you don't like head-to-head contact, but I think in a lot of ways we've gotten so concerned about any head-to-head contact that there's no wiggle room for it. It's just so black and white. Did he not?
Yeah, and I'm just kind of curious because it does, especially with football, that's never going to go away. We're going to get to a 0 point where there's no helmet-to-helmet contact, and I'm always curious to see how they should flex those rules. I'm kind of tired of it. I hate seeing great players. I don't care if it's an Iowa player. That might sound crazy to say, but I don't want to see their best defenders sit out and beat them that way. It's not a fun product to watch. And again, it's just unfortunate for Ty Robinson. Wasn't intentional. Definitely with the right call under today's rulings. But again, just very unfortunate. Moving on here.
If I can just add this real quick too. Despite that, it wasn't the problem, right? Ty Robinson was thought of as such a big piece of this defense, and I do think he's important. I don't want to downplay his contribution, but could you tell a difference from when he was in to when he was out?
No, in fact, this is going to sound harsh. And when he was out of the game, we didn't see an uptick because he was out, but you didn't even notice. In fact, we actually saw more pass rushing than we did see when he was in the game. So again, I don't know if that's just the play calling, but yeah, you're right. You didn't see a big dip. And again, that just kind of illustrates your point. I think that's probably the second biggest concern for me on defense. I love the way they held themselves today, but obviously that D line, who do you have in reserve? I'm a little curious there. That seemed to be a thin group, but they held their own today. Again, you held Minnesota, a team that's iconic for running the ball, even though today I do think they're trying to be a little bit cute and throw Nebraska off. That or they just had a lot of faith in their quarterback, which, but based off the way he's playing in the first half, going off his reads as quickly as he do, this could be in Minnesota. And, maybe it's a different way we need to understand PJ Fleck. He's going to work with the players he has. We might not just see a heavy run game all the time. But again, for me, it's that defense. What does that defensive line look? We just haven't really had a solid pass rusher in forever. I think this was probably one of my bigger concerns is, are we finally going to get someone that can put some haste on the quarterback? We saw what that did to Jeff Sims, right? A lot of interceptions. When you put that guy under pressure, he has to throw off his back foot. It's short, easy interception. Well, when you don't have that, you're just not going to be throwing a lot of picks. And the last guy Nebraska really had that could get to the quarterback was probably Randy Gregory effectively.
I would throw Malik Collins in that conversation.
That's good.
But he's an interior guy. His job was a little bit different. I think we sleep on Malik a little bit. Vincent Valentine had his moments as a sophomore, kind of regressed as a junior, and then went into the draft. But in terms of a pure edge rusher, Luke Gifford, by the time he was a senior, definitely had his moments, but he wasn't that level of elite pass rusher by any means. Right. So, yeah, the last top-notch go get him guy was him.
Yeah, and it just bothers me because, you see that year after year, and for Nebraska, it just becomes a problem because all these corpses have so much time to sit in that pocket. It becomes pretty easy to pick apart that secondary. When you're putting those guys, on the spot over and over and over again, that's how a guy like Tanner Morgan with Minnesota was able just to beat up on Nebraska year after year. It's not that he was an elite quarterback, but you set up that run like Minnesota's done so many years in a row. That play action looks pretty good. Everyone's sucking up. And not only that, you have a ton of time to get rid of that as well because your blocking is just that good. And Nebraska, we just haven't really had that. I think Gunnarsson got in there once tonight, which was kind of exciting to see. I believe he's only a sophomore, right, Gunnarsson?
Gunnarsson is, yes, redshirt sophomore, third year on campus.
Yep, third year on campus. I'm pretty excited on his trajectory. He came in, kind of made a splash. Other guys on the defensive line that kind of stuck out to you, obviously Ty Robinson had some plays in there. Gunnarsson, Luke Reimer, didn't see a ton from him. He played all right today, but any other guys that really stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball that we're excited to see?
Not really. I mean, Omar Brown, we talked about, have that nice interception. Yep. Deshaun Singleton, I think, got away with a pass interference a little bit there in the deep pass. They were solid at safety. Again, that one play from Omar Brown on the interception was a nice one. I think for the most part, they did their job.
Hartzog scares me a little bit.
He
had that one
up and down
breakdown where, when they got that touchdown when it was really needed for Minnesota to get that lead for him, or excuse me, not the lead, get that tie for him. He just broke completely the wrong way. He had not just one, he had two guys inside of him that were there to help him out. And it was just bad footwork. He just bites on going in, even though I'm sure in his head he knew, hey, I got two guys inside. I just got to watch him on going out to the flat. And he's just not there. It's just a total mental breakdown. And again, I like Malcolm Hartzog. I think he's an athlete. But again, that was just a mental lapse that I hope he grows out of. And that just could be game one jitters, right? You hope those guys grow out of it.
Well, yes, I generally agree, but it's not game one for him, right? He played a lot last year.
That's true.
He's a guy that, even though he's young, you're looking at him as a leader on this team to some degree. It's supposed to be a lockdown corner. He was a little too boom or bust tonight, right? He had a couple that I thought he made nice plays on, credited with a tackle for loss and one pass deflection. But there was one that he missed a tackle, let Minnesota go for a first down. I think it was on second and long or on third and medium. That would have been a nice stop to get off earlier in the game. And then that go-ahead touchdown. Again, you have to credit the receiver for a heck of a catch, right? To be able to drag his toe like that, 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, he gets away with that mistake.
Right.
But it's just a perfect encapsulation of one of the few times he doesn't get away with that mistake that he breaks down. It comes back to bite Nebraska in the biggest way.
Yeah, and you're a little nicer on that. I was pretty disgusted when I saw that play. I'll be honest. The way that broke down, it was a pretty bad pass by the quarterback too. Yeah, it was in the open spot, but I mean, he could have made that a hell of a lot easier catch for him, and it still would have been wide open. Those are just kind of the plays I'm talking about, right? There's got to be those moments where you draw your line in the sand and everyone's got to be locked in. It just takes one guy to mess up. And what we're seeing from Minnesota, they got a quarterback is what it looks like. So he's going to make that pass for you. And he kind of showed that early on in the first half. He was going through his reads fast. You're going to have to be effective. But nonetheless, it's kind of where I'm sitting with the defense. Defense, obviously the high point. Offense, it's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to penalties. It sounds a lot like years past. The only thing that kind of gives me hope is it is game one. It is year one for Matt Rule. And a lot of these guys are still trying to figure it out. They've been through a lot of hard games. I was hoping this Iowa win would kind of carry in over to Minnesota. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We're kind of back to square one. But, I just kind of want to wrap it up here. We don't have to dive into special teams too much. Obviously, great return by Amir Johnson. Not too many concerns there. But is there anything that you want to chime in on before we get out of here?
Buschini was solid. 47, almost 48 yards a kick, all three of them inside the 20 with a long of 60. He's good. Wish Alvana would have gotten a shot to play hero at the end. Would have been cool, but he did his job. I think we should wrap with this text from Kent, who is at the game in Minnesota, longtime season ticket holder. Kent says, "Tell me why I can play in a bowl game. Tonight was extremely disappointing. The result was extremely disappointing. I get that a lot of people are at the point of, I don't want to be close anymore. It's time to turn that page and win." And I totally get that. You can feel that way, but also you have to understand that a lot of the stuff that happened tonight can be cleaned up, right? It's not like Nebraska was out-talented or out-athleted. Out-coached in one or two moments, sure, you can talk me into that. I think we raised plenty of those questions, but Nebraska did hang in there against a more veteran team. They're due. They need to find a way to make that one play. Someone has to develop into that superstar. But Kent, let me run down the schedule for you, right? You missed an opportunity against Minnesota, but I don't think it was win this one or bust. There are opportunities left on the schedule. Colorado went 1-11 last year. They tore their program down. As much transition as Nebraska has.
They got over 80 new players in that building.
Yes, they have over 80 new players in something completely new. That's an opportunity. Northern Illinois, Louisiana Tech both went 3-9 last year. They're not going to be cakewalks. They're not going to be pushovers. They should both be improved to some degree, but they're 3-9 teams from lesser conferences. Nebraska has a chance to win that. Michigan, feel free to write that one off. I pretty much have, but hey, crazier things have happened, I guess. Illinois to end the first half of the season on the road on a short week is going to be tough. I have a lot of questions about that offense, right? I think Illinois is very similar to Minnesota, maybe some more big names on the defensive side of the ball, especially up front with their defensive tackles. I don't think their offense is going to be anything to write home about. Oh, and they lost their defensive coordinator. That gets us to the bye week. You come out of it with Northwestern. Okay, don't lose that game.
Yeah, there's enough said there.
Purdue at home. Again, that's another place that lost its head coach that brings in a new quarterback who's, I mean, I know he's just at Texas and then Purdue, but kind of feels like a journeyman with all the quarterback drama down at Texas.
I would be amazed if he's better than O'Connell.
Right. No Charlie Jones, no Payne Durham for him down there. Purdue's in transition. Michigan State breaking in a true freshman starting quarterback. They'll be athletic, but it's a big year for Mel Tucker. If things aren't going well and they're feeling a lot of pressure, you still got to prove you can win on the road, but there's an opportunity there. Maryland at home, they're going to be more talented than you. They're going to be more athletic than you, but they break down in November. They always do. That's what we've seen from Maryland consistently. I didn't pick Nebraska to win either of those last two games, but there's a path. At Wisconsin's going to be tough, not necessarily because I'm some, big Wisconsinophile and I think they're going to be so great. Nebraska just hasn't won Camp Randall. They've got to prove it. But again, let's see how things start for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Do they put it together by the end of the year? Are they still working to figure it out with a new coach, transition scheme, all of that? And then Iowa, you beat them with your back against the wall, and Iowa had everything to play for last year. They come to your place this year. So, yes, tonight was extremely disappointing. It wasn't the result that any of us wanted, but it's also an all too predictable result at the same time. So I don't think any of us are shocked by this loss. To me, it doesn't change the outlook of the season all that much, if at all.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at here. And you said it. You were going through the entire list. Lot of changeover in the Big Ten. So again, we're going to kind of see this thing shape out, and I think it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of surprising wins, a lot of surprising losses, because again, we got a bunch of first-year head coaches. We got a lot of changes, especially at the quarterback position for a lot of these teams. So it's going to be interesting. But again, the ticket, we're going to have all that content for you with all the Husker football games, and sure enough, volleyball, basketball, everything's going to be starting up here. But again, this has been the Husker football postgame show against Minnesota. We will catch you guys next Saturday.